This video series will be based on the workbook called the Advanced Art Students Workbook. This is for my Art 2, 3, and 4 students. Really, it's going to be up to you who it fits best with. I use this in the high school setting, but this can be used for advanced students from, I would guess, grades 6 and up. So this is more of a choice-based approach to art education, and the book works as a way of documenting your student work over the course of a semester or a year. So in the contents, we have our rules and expectations, media requirements, an overview, sketchbook idea, then review of our elements and our principles, project planning pages. Then we get more into the elements and principles, color, expectations and safety, project explorations, and then some specific projects and resources for them for a day of Dada, doing gridding, art and math, perspective basics, art exercises, human proportions, art quotes, which is something I do every Monday with my students, vocabulary review, a research paper and interview, art history review information, video notes in both short and long form, looking at art masterpieces and kind of breaking them down, some sketchbook ideas, there's about 180 of them in there, critiquing and expanding on lesson ideas, and then some coupons at the end that you may find helpful. These are my general classroom rules, and then I have a place down here where you can put in what is your cell phone rule for your students. We start off with the word about self-censorship, and though art can be free of creative constraints, we are in a school setting, so there may be certain images and things that your school does not allow students to do. So in my school, that would be guns, anything that's related to drugs or alcohol. So if a student wants to do an anti-drug poster or something, then they need to submit a sketch. And if I feel like it might be an issue, then I have them approach the administration themselves, and they can have a conversation to see if that would be appropriate. But here's just a quick way to kind of address this early on for our advanced students, because things can kind of pop up. All right, media requirements. You can determine how much you want your students to be required to do by the end of the semester, and if they are required. So for me, if I'm doing a full year course, then I will require that they have explored at least everything once. But this way you can get an idea of what they have used so that they explore lots of different media. So when the student does ink, they can check it off, the date, and give us a quick description of what it is that they created, and then you can initial right next to it to confirm that you have seen that the student has used ink. So there could also be a non-traditional media or teacher's choice. Maybe there's something specifically that you like to use that maybe is not used in other classrooms, and you may add that in there. As an overview, I have the students do all of their projects based on either a historical movement or a culture, or they can find a contemporary artist. And I only want them to explore each of these things once. So they will not get through all of this in a year, but if a student starts off and does something that's based on pop art, which is very popular, I don't want to necessarily see all pop projects out of that student for the whole year. So they would go ahead and cross that off, and then they could go ahead and do their exploration. I do have some required things for me, and it's up to you if you want to make these required, and that would be one self-portrait, one still life, and one project from direct observation without the use of a photograph. So those are the things. Now sometimes a still life and an observational project can be, one and the other. However, this observational project could be, a student drawing another student or going outside and drawing. I want to make sure that they're doing something from direct observation sometime through the year. As we continue on, there's a page, a lot of advanced students and a lot of advanced classes like students to have a sketchbook. So here's a way to turn a sketchbook into a project, so they would explore words that describe themselves, how others would describe them, and then use these as themes for creating their own sketchbook. Then I've broken down the schools of art from Byzantine through op art And I have a support video series for you, and there will be a link in the book to that, so that students can start to get a basic understanding of the time period that they're trying to emulate or use as inspiration for their project. Then I have a breakdown of some basic projects that could be done from these timelines. So since we said, like, let's say Fauvism, it's similar to Impressionism, but with purposefully altered colors. So they could do an impressionistic painting, but with purposefully altered colors, or an image painted with broken lines and exaggerated color. So these are some quick thumbnail ideas, but there are more developed ideas in the back of the book, but this just kind of gets them jumping off with some ideas. And we go all the way through contemporary artists as well. So these become the pages for students to start doing their project work, where they have to pick their inspirational topic, whether it is a contemporary artist or a culture or a specific school of art, and then they would incorporate the dates here. Then they need to define it. They would find 4 famous examples. So if we're doing Renaissance, then they would find something by Da Vinci, another by Donatello, Michelangelo, and so forth. Give it a year, name the painting, what do these have in common, and then what specific themes, ideas, or techniques came from this work. So then they would start to break down what it is that they're seeing, and then I have students create 3 ideas of what they would like to do or what they could do based on their research. So usually the first one is what they actually want to do, but I always want my students to have some backup plans. Then I have a blank page behind that for them to sketch out their initial idea, and then this would be for the following project. Once they're done with that, then they can move on to the pages that follow, where we're talking about the specific projects. So this would be an actual project page. So as your students are working, they would be bringing over some information. So the inspiration for this particular project is, whether it was Renaissance or, a contemporary artist. My concept is, so what is their basic idea? And it is connected to the inspirational idea by, and then they would write down how is it that their Da Vinci inspired project is connected to their invention, exploration project. So that would be written in here. Give it a title, though the title could change. Their intro date, so when did our class begin? Because everybody could be doing something different. This student might be exploring Renaissance, another student could be exploring pop art. They're all exploring different things. You would have your intro date, when was your sketch complete, when did you transfer your design from your sketch to your final paper or your sculpture, and then when did you begin your final project, and then the deadline is set by the teacher. In general, I have a 2 to 3 week deadline for my projects for my students. That's assuming that they're meeting every day. And then they're going to break down the steps for creating their project. What do they need to do to create their individual thing? And then they set some deadlines here that meet your end of project deadline. As the student is working, I will circulate through the classroom, giving them individual help. And every 3 days or 2 days, I will initial how far along I think they are. So if they just have the sketch in the book, I might initial next to 10%. If we've got the sketch done on the paper, but they haven't yet incorporated color or anything, maybe they're at 25%. If they've started on color and I can see that they've got their idea fleshed out, maybe 50%. And as they get closer and closer, you can go down more towards 95% complete in the project. This way, as you're circulating around, you can keep tabs on how far along they are and that progress is being made. And if you're being observed, then you can show that documentation is being kept on each student as they work individually. Then we have a universal rubric for the students. The 90% column and the less are already filled out. And then if they feel that they have exceeded expectations, the student needs to write out what is it that they did that exceeded the expectations of the project. So we've broken it down into the use of the elements and principles of design, neatness and craftsmanship, time and management, execution, originality and uniqueness, requirements and depth. Did they hit everything that was required by you as the teacher, and did they make personal connections to incorporate depth? And then there's some space here for you to make individual comments, add things up, and give them a grade. So this will be something that can then build a portfolio for students as they work on the projects. If you feel like this has been helpful and you're going to be getting the Advanced Art Students Workbook, I will upload additional videos taking you page by page and giving you additional video resources to help your students through your course. Thank you.